Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are the co-hosts of Jumping Bomb Audio, the podcast all about Joshi Pro Wrestling here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. Every other Monday, we are with you talking about the biggest news in Joshi, along with show reviews, previews, and much, much more.
So if you're new to Joshi or you've been a longtime fan, this is the show for you. We've got something for everyone here. So check us out, Jumping Bomb Audio.
Hey everybody, my name is Jesse Collins, and I want to tell you all about my show, the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. On the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, we do a thorough analysis on the biggest issues and trends within the pro wrestling industry. We talk a lot about pro wrestling media, we talk a lot about fan culture and wrestling's place within general pop culture, and we talk about the broader influences that are shaping the way we discuss and analyze the pro wrestling industry. We've had some of the brightest minds in the pro wrestling intelligentsia on the show, including WrestleNomics host Brandon Thurston, both Rich Craich and Joe Lanza from the Flagship Wrestling Podcast, Trevor Dame from the Through the Years podcast, and a whole lot more. This isn't a show for hot takes. It's not a show recapping the latest episode of television. This is a show focusing on the biggest topics in pro wrestling and doing a deep dive on the real stories behind the surface level analysis you might find elsewhere. The Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts, and we'd really appreciate it if you gave us a try. Thanks.
Here we go.
Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you work your A-game. A-man, no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This is an A-game, better bring your A-game. Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you work your A-game. A-man, no rain from the track when we...
And now it's the Mike and JD show, and I am your host, Mike Gilbert, and I'm joined as always by JD, by God Oliva. How you doing, JD?
I'm good. I'm still not used to A game leading us off.
Yeah.
Every time, last couple times I heard like, oh yeah, this is us now. Weird.
Man, this song gets my heart pumping, man. I think you got Illa and Revelation for A game. Man, we got a lot to talk about this week, but I just wanted to tell a funny story. I think the world needs a funny story this week. So literally minutes before I hop in here, I'm outside and I'm walking my dog. My dog's a bit older. She's like 10, 11 years old. She's a pit bull. She's got skin cancer. She's got arthritis in her hip. And then like a couple weeks ago, me and her were playing, and she was chasing me up and down the stairs, and she kind of tripped on one of the stairs and she kind of hurt her leg. And so she's got a little bit of a limp now. And so but she still thinks she's the toughest dog known to man. So we go outside and she's going to use the bathroom and she's just sniffing around. And I'm like, hey, come on. I have to get upstairs to go to the bathroom, dog. Come on, poop. And I'm like telling her to poop. And all of a sudden a little boy, probably 4 or 5 years old, walking a golden retriever goes by. So my dog starts yapping at that dog. And then his dog lunges toward me and my dog. And the little boy could not hold on to the leash anymore. And the dog just runs at my dog. So I pull my dog back. Well, her legs are bad. So she just kind of, when you do that, she just lays down and like kicks her little legs, even though she used to be like the toughest dog in the world. She's like, now my poor baby, she's just like laying on the ground. And like the golden retriever came up and I kind of like pushed its face back. And like the kid's older brother ran over, grabbed the leash and pulled the dog back. And then like I grabbed my dog and she's like 75 pounds. And like a feat of human strength, I picked her up and put her inside the house. And then she got her legs back underneath her and she starts yapping at the other dog through the door. And in doing so, I pulled a muscle in my back because as my doctor told me last week when I went in to go get my knee and my hip checked out, she says, Sergeant Gilbert, you are 40. You've been diagnosed with being 40. And I think I felt that tonight, lifting my dog up, saving her from a sweet golden retriever from down the road.
Yeah, it happened to me when I hit 40 with we were talking about weight training and stuff like that before the show. And I had 405 and I was like repping 405 on the deadlift, and it got a little tricky. You know, when you start getting that fatigue and you start jerking a little bit more. Yeah, that was a mistake. I basically had to crawl out of the gym And my chiropractor said, JD, you're 40 this year. What are you doing? Why are you deadlifting 400 pounds? You don't have to do that. And I'm like,
dude.
Well, kind of, I think I do.
Yeah. No, man. So we were talking about before we went on the air. Lifting heavy when you're 40 is pretty stupid. And I recently, just within the last couple of years, I stopped going real heavy. I don't do anything over 225 anymore. And if I could stay even under that, I'm happy. I no longer feel the need to be the strongest guy in the room. And I never really was. I've had two shoulder surgeries. I've had a neck surgery. So like lifting heavy is I've never been like the strong, but I always tried. Right. I always tried to be stronger than I was before. But now I'm just like, if I can just get in some good reps and good form, I don't care what the weight is anymore.
That's how you got to be when you get older. I'm a kettlebell guy now, right? Nice. Kettlebells. I got some bands. I got some lightweight stuff that I'm trying to focus on now. Again, the age thing. But then I was a meathead, man. I was a Division I athlete. I was the strongest kid on my team. Like I took pride in that. I had the squat record at Northern Illinois University for a little while. That guy is gone. Long gone. So here's the thing too. Let's dovetail this. Getting old sucks. And part of what sucks about getting old is seeing people that you grew up watching pass on. And then it's even scarier when guys younger than you fall away. And it's it's not the show I planned on doing tonight. I don't know about you, man.
No, man, we had a and we're still going to have a real fun show. We like to keep it lighthearted here, and we are going to have a good time. We're going to make fun of AEW. We're going to make fun of WWE. We're going to tell some jokes. But I feel like it's our responsibility to start off, and we'll get to Terry Funk. We're going to go long on Terry Funk, but I really do want to start off paying tribute to Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda. He passed away earlier today. Sean Ross Sapp reported that he had some complications from COVID and that he had a heart issue that he was working through, and he was hoping to return soon. And today he had a heart attack, and ultimately he passed away. He's got a few kids. He's got a wife. We're not talking about just a pro wrestler here that say what you want. I really enjoyed a lot of what he did early on. I was a big fan of his initial main roster run, but this guy is a husband. He's a father. He's a son. And he's a brother. His brother is Bo Rotunda. Just thoughts and prayers go out to his family, his kids especially, and then of course his immediate family. Mike Rotunda, his dad, legendary wrestler Erwin R. Shyster. Just a big loss to the pro wrestling community. Man, he's only 36.
36.
That's 4 years younger than me. And so, and I hate to make this about myself, and I'm trying not to do that, but I think it's only natural when you see a guy that young and you start thinking about your own mortality. You start, it really makes you think of just how ridiculous a lot of the stuff that we're all arguing about really is. And a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, and like, oh, you would fantasy book that. Well, you're stupid. I would fantasy book it this way because I'm smart. Like that kind of stuff. Like, oh, Tony Khan didn't book this person on the card. He must be a bad person. It's like, it's all dumb relative, to what life is really about. And unfortunately, we saw a young man who was super, super creative, super passionate about pro wrestling. Had a huge fan base, had a huge impact on the world of pro wrestling, and we lost him today, man, and it sucks.
So, Bray Wyatt, interesting. I remember I was working a job in Boston. This is January of 2014, and I had nothing to do, and I'm sitting in my hotel room, and I'm scrolling the TV, and I come past Monday Night Raw, and I hadn't watched WWE in 10 years at that point. Like I had checked in and out. I had checked more in and out of Impact than I had checked out of WWE. But I watched and got to the main event, and it was Ryan Danielson. I recognized him from, just paying attention a decade prior, and Bray Wyatt and the cage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was astonished at how just over Bryan Danielson was at that time. Like seeing the crowd do the yes thing. First time I had seen that. And this Wyatt character intrigued me. And it kind of brought me back, right? That one trip, that one job in Boston. I don't know if I'm here if I do that job, if I don't take that job and just happen to watch Raw on that evening, right? There was something about what I saw that night that just made me interested again. Also coincided with the wife canceling cable and getting Roku full time. So I just started watching more wrestling, and like, I didn't love everything about Bray Wyatt, but you couldn't not respect his creativity and what he tried to do with professional wrestling. The original Bray Wyatt character, the cult leader, the Waylon Mercy seen to its full
Mhm.
potential was awesome. Stuff that happened after that's up for debate. But man, that original Bray Wyatt was definitely one of the more interesting characters that we've seen in the last 20 years or so, I'd say.
Yeah, he really was when he came out in like I think it's 2013, and someone in the chat could probably correct me, but I think he came up to the main roster in about 2013, and I was just so intrigued. Like the guy just cut these great, believable promos. Like the difference between Bray Wyatt and a lot of pro wrestlers that are playing characters that we see on TV, it seemed like he meant everything that he said, no matter how outrageous or bizarre that it was. Like his delivery was just so great. He was such a natural, and I always felt like he could probably do movies. And when he left WWE for a while, I think that's what he was going to go do, and he ended up going back. But I just like the guy was just super talented, especially with his promos and his delivery and everything that he did. And he was just so creative. The creativity just oozed from that guy, and the early cult leader stuff, like the backwoods, like Louisiana, with the fedora hat and like the kind of the Hawaiian shirt and the white pants, and like Waylon Mercy. Yeah, he was obviously very much inspired by Waylon Mercy. And, I got a chance to listen to him on a podcast with Steve Austin, where he talked about the origins of the character and how Waylon was a big influence on him, and how like different people in his life helped influence that character and the people that he came across, and how the name Bray came from a kid in school that had special needs that was named Bray, and he took that. And then, of course, Wyatt was from Wyatt Earp, and all the different things and intricacies that he put into the character, and the fact that they just let him run with it, which is amazing. And they didn't try to like overly script him. Like he had hands on with his character. I thought was really cool, like a unique thing. And I actually got to see Bray live. I was at WrestleMania in 2015, and he wrestled The Undertaker.
Mhm.
And I'm still mad to this day that they put them out there before it got dark, because I wanted to see the Fireflies, man. And I texted you last night because I was trying to improve my lighting. I failed miserably, guys. I'm sorry to JD, who is a video production teacher. He's trying to teach me how to improve my lighting. But I'll just show you guys this little gimmick I concocted. Where's it at? So I got a little lantern and I put some blue cellophane on it. and I was like, oh, that should really, because JD's got like the blue lighting behind him, and I was getting a little jealous.
So like I told Mike, I said get a light and get some blue sun, just use blue cellophane to create like a lighting effect on it. I meant like a powerful camera light, and he took me to being like a light, like a flashlight or a lantern. Yeah. And I was just like, I'd have the heart to tell him, Mike, that's not going to work. I was just yeah, go for it, bro. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, it clearly did not work. It looks like it does every single week. So now I have 100 feet of cellophane with nothing to do with it. I think I'll make some gift bags for my kid's birthday coming up. But yeah, so
that happens with lighting. I'm looking at this side of me right now. I'm like, oh, look at all those shadows. I got to go get another light. So I mean, that's the thing with lighting is, it's like having a tattoo. Like you can't have one, you have to have 9. Like with lighting, I'm like, I just need more lights around here. It's not what I want it to be yet. So yeah, we're all a work in progress.
So I did get a chance to see him live at WrestleMania, and I was, I dug the whole thing that he did. I dug the entrance, and and I dug the match and everything, but I was just so disappointed that I didn't get to see the Fireflies live that night. I ended up going to a Raw later, and I got to see the Fireflies. But
the WrestleMania 15, that was when he had like the scarecrows walking out with him, right?
Yeah.
That would have been cooler in the dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and then of course he was wrestling Undertaker, and if you're gonna see the Undertaker live, like you need the lights to go out. But it was in California at like 6 p.m. and so naturally it's not dark. So
you know what else would have been great on that WrestleMania? Sting not losing to Triple H. I'll let that one go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's just, I mean, it's What do you say to a guy who is only 36 years old? Like, what do you say about that? Like, how can you reconcile that? Like, I'm having a hard time with it because I'm about 6 years older than Bray, and I'm like than he
Yeah.
was, and I'm then when Returner was, and I'm like, well, why do I get more time? You know, it's like, why do I get more time? Like, what is
Yeah.
my?
Or
I don't know, man.
yeah. Or
My
where
mom
my
was
head goes. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, sorry, man. I was just gonna say I'm currently 3 years younger than my mom was when she passed. So the last like year has been really kind of weighing on me with this stuff. Like, again, my mom died of a freak thing, but it's still kind of like itching away at the back of my head all the time. And like, these things, yeah, I don't think, I think it's human nature to be a little selfish about them. Because how else do you process death but just wonder, well, when's it my turn? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
we lost a
It,
viewer with that. Cool.
No, dude, no, I totally get it, man. I think it's just natural. Especially when, I think we got to see Bray grow up, and that's also a hard thing. Like, I know it's on TV and we didn't really know this person. But, we got to see him from his early days in NXT, where he was Husky Harris, and then he goes to NXT and he creates his character and he's workshopping it. And then he comes up through the main roster, and then he becomes one of the biggest stars in WWE, like one of the biggest merch sellers. Like, people can say what they want about the Fiend and how it ended up being, but the lead up to the Fiend's debut, and then some of the events afterwards, like, he absolutely was a needle mover. And then when he left WWE, and then he came back, he was again a big time needle mover, to where they were promoting him all over every WWE show that they had, and they kept delaying and teasing his debut and stuff like that. We've seen this guy, grow up. I'm a few years older than him, but I've been seeing him on television for the last 10 years, and from 26 to 36, that's pretty crazy, right? Just to see a guy, and like that's the prime of your life, essentially.
Mhm.
And now he's been taken away from us just way too soon. And you're right, naturally, we all have this instinct to make everything about ourselves. And one of the first things I did was just kind of like, man, I'm 40. Like, I could be next,
Mhm.
it's like legit. And so you got to think about those things. And it's like, maybe that person that I wanted to talk to lately and I didn't pick up the phone and call, maybe I'll go ahead and do that, or maybe that person that I need to make an amends with, life's too short. Maybe I should go ahead and make that amends. Maybe the whatever resentment I'm holding on to is no longer important. It makes you think about that stuff.
No, for sure. That's why I can't be mad about my hobby. Like, I see so many people just hate post about this thing they're supposed to love and do nothing but complain about it. And I'm like, I don't have time for this. Like, I don't have time to just be just in the constant negative cycle of this is bad, this sucks, everything sucks. I'm like, then
Yeah.
what? Just one of the smartest things I heard was when you don't like your hobby anymore, it's time for a new hobby.
Mm-hmm.
So I never want to, because that was there. And it's not hatred that kills a hobby, it's apathy. It's when you stop caring altogether about it. That's when you walk away. It's not getting mad about something. It's when you just go, whatever.
Yeah.
So, but here we are. And it's funny because I fully expected to talk about Terry Funk today.
Yeah. Well, and we are going to talk about Terry Funk. Let's go ahead and get into Terry, but just first, hey, rest in peace, Bray Wyatt. Let me get through some of the comments that people laid on us. So Joseph G, I think the G stands for Gilbert. I'm pretty sure this is my cousin.
Maybe.
Said Bray was such a special and unique character. The Wyatt's facing off with the Shield for the first time. Wyatt's facing off with the Shield for the first time. It was the first time I can remember. This is awesome chant before the match ever started. Yeah, that was pretty unique, man. That was really cool. I remember that moment very well. And then our buddy Josiah, the death of Bray Wyatt hit very hard. He was so young. King Sir Victor, rest in peace, Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt. And then we got Jonte Brown. Do you know who Jonte Brown is?
It'll be Godzilla.
Godilla, A game. He's bringing his A game here tonight with us in the chat. He said, "What a shame." So, yeah, man. Rest in peace. Super, super sad. And then we have to go from one sad story to another really sad story. This one hit me hard yesterday, man. And probably not as hard as the Bray Wyatt thing, because Bray Wyatt because we're so close in age and it was so sudden and out of nowhere. I didn't expect it. that one had me feeling like a certain way. But Terry, when he died, in a weird way, like, yeah, it did hit me hard, but then it gave me the opportunity. It reminded me that I need to go back and enjoy one of the guys I grew up loving, and that I enjoyed so much for most of my life. Honestly, you think like he wrestled for whatever 50 years. Like I've been watching him since I was a little kid, and I watched him wrestle from the late 80s, from my era, whenever I watched him, all the way up through like the 2010s. I got to see him wrestle in the 2010s. So, man, Terry Funk, just what an all-time legend. We lost him. This one wasn't sudden, and it wasn't totally unexpected, but yeah, he passed away yesterday at the age of 79, almost 80.
Yeah, this one hit me harder than Bray Wyatt. Like Bray Wyatt hit me in that selfish spot where
Yeah.
I'm like, could it be me? Terry Funk hit me in that spot where, like, it's been too real lately with watching the guys that we saw as kids starting to die, which again, that just happens when you get older, is the people that you admired and you watched as a kid, they get older too. And Terry Funk is one of my all-time favorites. Like,
Yeah.
I love Terry Funk. I wrote something for our Patreon about Terry Funk in 1989, which is, like, in my opinion, one of the best years of professional wrestling, just all around. NWA in 89 is for me like my prime deal. So I got to write a little bit about that. It's available for the Patreon guys right now. I'll probably open it up within the next day or so to everybody to take a look at. But this with Terry Funk, it's one of those. Bray Wyatt was sudden. Terry Funk was the guy that everybody kind of like, man, I hope Terry Funk's okay. We've been seeing that a lot online for the last couple of years. Man, I hope Terry Funk's okay, because he was so giving, right? Like Terry Funk is one of the, in some, like, it's so funny because he would come in. I compared him in the article to like a cow. We'll talk about this in the overtime more, but I compared him to like a cowboy, like a cowboy movie. You ride into town, you fix the problem, you ride away. And that's just kind of what he did. And like the fact that I loved it, the last time that I remember seeing him on TV was with Moxley when he was still Dean Ambrose doing the aborted Brock Lesnar match at WrestleMania, where they had that that one last fantastic Terry Funk promo, and then they did nothing with it. But I don't know. It's that one hurt. That one hurt a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, Terry, he was around for over 50 years. But I was like thinking about, a couple years ago, X-Pac had said something about him, and then I quote tweeted, "It's like, we need to have like a Ken Burns style documentary about Terry Funk," which is crazy because we were just talking about Ken Burns last week. And because if you think about it, you could do like one chapter devoted from his early life through playing college football to trying out for the NFL and not make it, then becoming a pro wrestler, and then like making a name for himself, touring around with his brother, and being a big time main eventer while his brother was the champion, going into all those territories to take on the local baby face to get him ready for his brother. And then ultimately becoming NWA champion. Like that's a full career right there. That's like the first 10 years of his career. And then he gives up the title because his wife left him. And he said, you know what? I'm done with, my wife left me. The schedule's too much. I'm going to give away the NWA title, the most important prize in all of pro wrestling, your biggest opportunity to make the most money in all of professional wrestling. He gave that up to get his wife back, right? Like that's a full movie right there. But then when he gets his wife back, he then has this other career where he is, a tag team with his brother. And then he becomes like this mega star in Japan. And not a lot of American fans understand just how huge he was in Japan, him and his brother, like as both as singles and as a tag team. So he has this like incredible run in Japan, and then he retires for the first time, and then he goes to movies. He comes back and then has another good run with the Rock and Wrestling Connection. Didn't last that long, but he actually has a run with Hogan where they're doing shows together. They did a big match on Saturday night's main event. So he does that for a little while, and then he goes away again. And then has the run of his life in WCW. And we're going to talk about that on overtime after this show is over. We're going to talk about that on our extra show. And then he has an incredible run. And then I'm sure he retired, 30 times or whatever. That's the big joke. So like that's like another movie. And then he has another run in Japan where he's doing death matches. And then he does the ECW run, which is where I know him best from. That's like, I knew about the Flair stuff in 89, and I watched some of that. And the the Halloween Havoc '89 videotape. I rented a lot, so I
Me
was
too.
pretty well versed because it had such a cool cover. So
Mhm.
we rented that one a lot. But at my peak wrestling fandom was, when he was in ECW, and that's where I really got to know Terry Funk. And so, like, my most common knowledge of Terry Funk was as the legend Terry Funk, the hardcore legend, the crazy guy, the 50-year-old, 55-year-old guy doing backflips off of ladders onto people, doing, Born to Be Wired with Sabu and the barbed wire match and all that stuff. So he has that whole career. And then he comes back to WWF as Chainsaw Charlie, which I think that's probably a chapter that everybody can forget. But I look back on that fondly because the only time I ever saw Terry Funk live was as Chainsaw Charlie, and he would go around the ring, and when the cameras weren't looking, he would take off the pantyhose from his head so everybody could see that, no, it's me, Terry Funk. He would take it off to the live crowd, and then as the camera zoomed back on him, he put it back down. That way he didn't get in trouble with the bosses. So I know that was like a ridiculous part of his career, but I actually got to look fondly on some of the Chainsaw Charlie stuff. And so he has that awesome run in the Attitude Era with Mick Foley. They do the thing at WrestleMania 14. They win the tag team titles in the dumpster match, the only good dumpster match in the history of pro wrestling. And then like later that summer, he ended up flaming out. I think he became a tag team with Too Cold Scorpio at one point. And then he had this really, really great match on Monday Night Raw. I can't remember. Mick Foley had turned heel and he was trying to chase Austin, and Vince put him in a match against Terry Funk. And like they're fighting in the aisle, they beat the crap out of each other. They're fighting in the aisle. Funk does a moonsault off of like this balcony on top of him. It was like just randomly out of nowhere. It just had, an insanely great hardcore match with Mick Foley and Terry Funk on a random episode of Raw. I don't even know if it was live or taped, but yeah, he had all the, he ended up doing some WCW stuff. I remember one match in WCW later, like after that, where he wrestled Dustin Rhodes inside of a bunkhouse and he got kicked by a horse. You remember seeing that?
Oh my God, you fucking horse. I'll kick your ass.
Yeah, it was in WCW, man. It was so great. You look, Josiah jumps in. He said, yeah, Funk cut an all-time great promo on a horse in WCW in the year 2000.
Only Terry Funk could have cut a promo on a horse. I'm sure it's not the only promo Terry Funk ever cut on a horse, quite frankly. Just the only one that we saw on television.
There's that funny story that when he was working for WWE in the 80s, he just quit randomly one day because he said his horse was sick and he had to go.
That's just Terry Funk, man. I mean, that's what was cool about him, is he would just come in, do his thing for a little bit. He could never stay in one place for very long. Right, because remember, he popped in WCW again in '94 for a little bit. He was part of Colonel Parker's crew, and then he did some
Slamboree.
Smoky Mountain, Slamboree time. Like, he just, and he'd sip WCW 2000. He just showed up for a little bit in 2000, the worst era of WCW. There was Terry Funk.
Yeah,
it's just it's a shitty week to be a fan, man.
Yeah. It really is, but you know what? Like, it is, but I think this is also a good opportunity to go back and kind of appreciate what a guy like Terry Funk did, right? And all the different incarnations of Terry Funk, because there's so many different versions. It's the same guy, but he had just so many different varying chapters of his career that you can kind of reach back to. And young people can now go back onto YouTube and it's like, I want to see the Funk Brothers versus Stan Hansen and whoever, I think 10 or whoever Stan Hansen's tag partner was in the 80s. I want to see, the Funk Brothers in All Japan in the 80s. You know what I mean? They can go back and just see how heated those matches were. They can look back at his NWA stuff in the 70s, and that's just really, really learn about and enjoy the guy.
He just had such an amazing run, right? Like, and runs, like, nobody talk about like a guy like a Chris Jericho redefining himself, and like that's the guy who like never had to change who he was, but who he was fit in no matter where they were.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's the same Terry Funk in ECW that there was in basically WWF in '86. Like, it's the same guy, but there's something about him in that era that makes the character completely different for some reason. And I can't think of many other guys that came through the business, didn't really change who they were, both like in the ring and out of the ring, like just change the person that they were and become the heartbeat of the promotion so often, without having to change themselves. It's pretty fascinating, actually. He's an amazing
Yeah,
was an amazing performer.
Yeah, he never really like he did he didn't exactly change himself, but he did like evolve with the times, and that was one of the things that he was able to do. Like he never really looked down on the younger generation. He tried to learn from the younger generation. Now he wasn't about to do a lot of the stuff that they did, but look, he wasn't doing moonsaults off of ladders and in St. Louis in 1969, right? Like, but in 1997, he's doing that in ECW, right? Or he's doing it in 1998 in WWF. Like he just kind of learned and he evolved and he listened and he always did what he could to help out that next generation, and that's why he continued to be such a presence in pro wrestling, because he was just so revered, because he never really treated anybody with anything other than dignity and respect. That's why you're not seeing anybody like, sometimes somebody will die and then someone, there's always gonna be like one asshole on social media like trying to crap on them. Like you're not getting that with Terry Funk, right?
No.
Like it's because just he was just so great. He was just one of the greatest that's ever done it. And I was like watching back some of his 85 WWF run, just like simple little things. Like Hulk Hogan would punch him, and Terry Funk doesn't just get punched. Like his whole body gets punched, right? Like you barely touch Terry Funk and his whole body is a wiggling, right? He doesn't just like fall out of the ring. He has to do it in the most dramatic fashion possible. Slide off the rope, bouncing. His feet gets caught on the ropes, and then he just plops down on the ground. Like everything about him was just so above and beyond what everybody else was doing. He like made it a show, and he would do that same thing whether there was like 10 people in the arena for ECW or 20,000 in WWF. Like he was just always giving it everything he had.
And he was smart enough to know when it was time to give something a little bit on the funnier side and when it was time to be violent. Right?
Yeah.
Like there was time, like, and he could feel that better than anybody. And he was such an amazing promo. Like a Dusty Rhodes, and the fact that like you felt real, right? Different style of promo, but like you believe Terry Funk, like the middle-aged and crazy, the Jim Ross adage of him. I always felt that when he was on the microphone, right? He always came off to me like he was a little crazy, because quite frankly, he was probably a little crazy, right?
Yeah.
And it was believable. But I mean, at some point he went from being this lunatic to being he was like your lovable lunatic uncle,
Yeah.
Man, the world's a worse place without Terry Funk.
Yeah. So outside of 1989, because we're going to go into 1989, which is one of the great years in pro wrestling history. What is one of your like go-to Terry Funk matches outside of 1989?
Man, 89 is my go-to.
Yeah.
I do not have the ECW passion that most of my generation have. I don't dislike it by any stretch of the imagination, but we didn't get it in Chicago until like probably deep into 98 is the first time I remember seeing it. So for me, if I want to go back and check out some Terry Funk stuff, I actually like the Lawler feud from 81. That empty arena match, which is way better than it has any right to be. Like, it's just two consummate professionals who could get, I hate to use the term blood from a stone, it's such a cliche, but I mean, like, I really love like our buddy Scotty Wrestling, right? Or the Joshi Machine. Like, he's like, I want matches to look at. And part of me is like, yeah, you watch, I mean, New York Knockout, Flair and Funk, that's the match, and then I recommended Lawler and him from 81. And then I thought, like, this with Funk, I think with a lot of guys from that era, it's about more than just matches. It's about the vibe of the person, right? Because for so long, wrestling on television wasn't about the match. It was about the personality. It was about inspiring you to come see these people live. Right. And Terry Funk was, the guys in the 70s, I think, had this figured out better than anybody, right? Because they would just get on a microphone and they would just, lure you in to come in, like, come watch me, with these just fiery promos that, I mean, there's just something about I would rather watch Terry Funk promos, right?
Mhm.
I love watching him just be heartfelt. Man, I don't love ECW, but Beyond the Mat is something I recommend anybody that wants to know anything about Terry Funk, because it's not a fantastic documentary, but the Terry Funk segments absolutely steal the show.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because Mick Foley stuff feels kind of icky and exploitative. The Jake stuff feels gross, but the Terry Funk stuff is just, it's great. Like, you just see this old gunslinger who just can't give it up and doesn't really want to give it up. You know, like, he's come to terms with what he is. And he just loves doing it. And it's the whole thing working into his retirement match with Brett, which again, I think he was back wrestling 3 months later. But I mean,
Yeah.
like, just getting that look into Terry and his family and his wife Vicky, like you talked about that love story the two of them shared. Like, gosh, I think when Terry was old, Vicky had left him and he went after the guy she left him for. I think Terry beat him up or something. And she was and she went back to Terry. Like, it's just great, crazy cowboy shit, man. It's just, I adore Terry Funk so much, just beyond what he could do in the ring. And that was awesome, man. Like, the King of the Deathmatch shit with him and Foley, and it's just lunacy, man. Absolute lunacy.
And Onita, yeah, was like super, super crazy. Dude, I went down a championship wrestling from Florida rabbit hole.
Ooh.
And yeah, and like there was that promo that I think it was Florida. Somebody might correct me on that, but I think it was Florida, where he did the promo where he's in the shower and he's covering himself with motor oil and just going crazy, just screaming into the microphone. And yeah, you're right. Terry Funk was about more than just the matches, and the matches were always fun to watch and were always good. But it was the promo and it was the entrance, right?
Yeah.
Like, he was a psychopath the moment he came through the entrance ramp. Like, it's like he would be going after the crowd. One of my favorite videos ever is when he was in WWF in the 80s, and he had the branding iron, the cowboy hat, and like the poncho. And like Mel Phillips takes the cowboy hat from him, like the creepo guy that had the foot fetish, takes the cowboy hat from him because he collected like the ring jackets and stuff, and he put Terry's cowboy hat on, and Terry beat the shit out of him. like he like just grabs him by his jacket, slings him into the ring, and just starts pounding the crap out of him. It looked like legit. It looked absolutely legit, but that was just like a layer of his character. Like, he was just getting over.
Well, and that's stuff he picked up from All Japan, and like watching guys like Tiger, like the Sheik, right, and Abdullah Brody, like those guys would beat people up on the way. I said Tiger Jeet Singh because he would do that too, but he was an All Japan guy. But I mean, that was still a thing. Like, the foreigners, the Gaijin guys would do that. Like, you were dangerous, and that was part of the charm of the crazy Gaijin over there. And Terry Funk adopted that and brought it here, and it was awesome. He was still doing that stuff in '89. Like, when he beats Flair up, and he's looking at the crowd, like, he goes after some dudes in the crowd that day. Like, it's just, man, Terry Funk.
Yeah, rest in peace, Terry Funk. Man, we lost an all-time legend. I'm sure Dave Meltzer will have a great bio. He already had partial, like an instant bio ready to go, but I think he'll have like a full-fledged one in the next couple of weeks that I'm just super looking forward to reading. You good?
That's going to be the greatest issue of the Observer ever when that happens.
Yeah. Abso-freaking-lutely, man. So, all right. It's weird. It's weird that we have to move on from something like that, and talk about, modern wrestling. And we have to kind of talk about nonsense going on in the world of wrestling. It's pretty crazy. All the different things that are going on. And we're going to do a full-fledged all-in preview here in a minute. But the first thing I want to get to outside of Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt is that Edge, we talked about him last week. There's been a little bit of an update. Edge did an interview recently talking about his contract status. His contract, he had wrestled the last match on his contract with Sheamus last Friday at SmackDown. His contract expires at the end of September, and he has a contract extension waiting in his email, but he took to social media and he put a video out and said that he does not know if he's going to resign or not. He doesn't know what he's about to do. If you guys remember correctly, the months leading up to his return, where everybody had the story that he was returning, he took the social media to tell every single person that they were a liar for saying that. And then naturally he showed up at the Royal Rumble. I think this guy's sticking with WWE. I think the deal's already done. I don't have any evidence to back this up. I could eat shit on this deal. But I don't think this guy is going anywhere. I think he's sticking around WWE.
I think he's going to AEW.
Really?
I'm just causing trouble. That's,
okay.
I mean,
Well,
like you read, like Sapp and those guys said that there's belief in the company that he is going to WWE or to AEW from WWE. I don't think that they make a big deal out of that match if he's going to resign. I don't. I mean, like, why do all that if he's going to be on the show again in a couple weeks or a couple months even?
Yeah, it's WWE, and they'd probably just hold him off until Rumble, you know?
Yeah, but
just to make everybody think that he wasn't coming back. I mean, they do stuff like that.
They do. I mean, like Vince would do something like that, but I don't know, man. I felt to me like, again, I didn't watch the show, but it sure feels like they acted like this was kind of it. And I don't know why, if it's not kind of it, I don't know why you do that on a random SmackDown as opposed to holding it off to a pay-per-view, right? Where you can make money on it. This felt to me like the contract is up. And if he doesn't re-sign, we've said goodbye. And I know he says that the offer is there and he hasn't taken it or whatever, but it sure feels like that's it. And I would not, because remember, it was Tony Khan talking to Adam Copeland that got him back into wanting to do this again.
Yeah.
Right. There was an offer there from AEW. Tony Khan loves Edge. And he went with Vince McMahon. And, I don't think the run there has been great. I don't think that's a controversial statement to say that. But I think that if he went somewhere else, he could do something different. He's never got a chance to do anything different. He's always been Edge, and he couldn't sit on your stool 20-minute promos with a light overhead with the super, with the super top high key light. No, you can't do that in this company. It won't get over. What you can do is you can sit there and tell guys whose dad's dead that you're going to fuck their mom. That seems to have worked well for his best friend.
Yeah. Did you know that there's like this weird hipster community out there that doesn't think Edge is good? Like,
I've seen a lot of it lately. I mean, like, I've always thought that Christian was the better worker of the two. I don't think that's a controversial statement at all. No. But I've always found Edge to be entertaining. Do I love this run that he's doing now? No, not really. But I mean, like, I think he's also in WWE. I think if you put that guy somewhere else and challenge him a little bit to get out of his comfort zone, I think he can do all right. I would watch him.
Yeah, I would watch him. I would be curious to see what he would do outside that WWE stuff, because what he does in WWE is what they like.
Yeah.
Right. Like he's still over. The guy's incredibly over. I saw him at WrestleMania this year and he got, one of the biggest pops of the entire night. Believe it or not, it was like him. It was like him and Shane McMahon, like, and Roman Reigns, of course. So,
that Shane McMahon part is disturbing. But
yeah.
I mean, you can't tell me. I know it's not going to happen. I know this isn't going to happen. So I'm not putting this out. I'm not trying to manifest this. But if that dude were to show up at Wembley this weekend, 80,000 people would go absolutely crazy.
Yeah. And a lot of people, the weird hipster community that thinks Edge is not good, a lot of them would change their mind all of a sudden, be like, oh yeah, no, I've always liked him. Right. I think it's more like, because he kind of represents that WWE style that's super plotting and boring. And I think that if he got out of that and came to AEW and did some different stuff, like I would be into it, man. I would like to see what Edge versus Kenny Omega looks like. Like that just something like that, like, intrigues me. And it might suck maybe, but you know what? It's different. But I'm interested in it. I'd like to see what it looks like, because I just don't know. I've never seen it.
Well, look what happened with Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho left WWE in, was it 18?
Yeah.
And completely revitalized himself. And he was in his late 40s at the time, right? A little older or a little younger than Edge is now. But I mean, it gave the guy a new lease on life, and he had another chapter of his career as a completely different character than the Y2J guy. I would love to see what Adam Copeland can be in AEW.
Yeah.
I mean, like, do I think it's going to happen for sure? I'm not a betting man. I wouldn't put money on it. But it sure feels like something could happen. And by the way, don't listen. Well, they say this on social media. They lie. Professional wrestlers are professional liars. Don't ever forget that. They're not your friends. They're not to be trusted ever.
They just want your money, guys. And Edge is
Mhm.
the king of that. He is one of the lyingest wrestlers that there's ever been.
One time,
Ask 3 of his wives. Sorry, go
fair,
ahead.
fair. It's a good point. No, Mike, it's wrestlers lie. We sat there with Moose after he re-signed a contract. We said, "Hey, talk about your re-signed contract." He goes, "I didn't re-sign no contract," and we're to be like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
And then he went another pocket and said, "Yeah, I just re-signed my contract." These guys lie just to lie.
And
So
you can see Moose lie to us in real time because I was digging through our archives and I'm starting to upload like old stuff from our old Brace for Impact show to our YouTube channel. So if you go to at the Mike and JD show on YouTube, I just uploaded that Moose interview where he lied straight to our faces about signing a new contract with Impact back in 2021. I immediately, as soon as the interview was over, I messaged Sap and was like, yo, the story, he's denying this whole story you guys put out. And he's like, dude, he said it on a podcast and he gave me the link to the podcast. I was like, oh, he goes, hey, we didn't write the story. It was like a podcast interview that he did. So literally he goes from one podcast where he admits to having, the signed contract to us saying, oh, I haven't signed anything. I'm just like, what the hell, what the hell, Moose? So yeah, they're all workers, man. They're all carnies. Can't be trusted.
no, I can't trust any of them. They're not your friends. They're
Yeah.
all scorpions. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, but I would like to see it because I'm a fan of like things happening, right? I'm a fan of what can we do interesting, right? And I think that sometimes, trading talents can be a good thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'd like to see Edge in AEW. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, me too. All right, guys, before we get to our all in preview, I want you guys to check us out on patreon.com/ the Mike and JD show. We've been cranking out a ton of content. JD just wrote an article today about Terry Funk's run in 1989. He has another article waiting in the wings already written, and it's going to be coming out this weekend. So stay tuned for that. I also released 2 Brace for Impacts over the weekend, plus our Patreon exclusive show, Overtime with Mike and JD, was on there. We already blew past our first goal. So we're 19 subs right now. Help us get to 25 subs. Tell your friends, head to patreon.com/ Mike and JD show. Help us pay for this podcast, help us stay in business, and help convince our wives that this is okay for us to do, to neglect them every Thursday night. I would really appreciate that. Money helps that. Money helps that cause. So
My wife's in bed asleep right now, but justify me not being able to sleep before a Friday at work. So that's what I would appreciate.
Yeah. Before we get into, we'll just get into All In preview because there's stories tied to All In that have been surrounding All In. So as we get to those matches, we'll talk about the stories surrounding them, if that makes sense. So, All In coming up this Sunday. It's at Wembley Stadium. The biggest event in the history of pro wrestling outside of WWE. I don't think that's even a controversial statement. AEW 0 Hour starts off Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship. MJF and Adam Cole versus Aussie Open for the titles. Who you got?
I'm going to take MJF and Adam Cole. I think there's more stuff to be done. Even if there's a title change, I think the idea of the two of them being co-holders of tag titles while feuding, I think there could be something there. And I think there's more there because Aussie Open hasn't been built yet here.
Yeah.
I think that they're flexible enough to lose early. And I think there's more storyline potential with those two holding that particular set of belts. Thoughts?
Yeah. I think you're right. I like them as the ROH Tag Team Champions. And I think it adds another layer to the story, and it gets Aussie Open in front of 80,000 people, which is cool with me. Although dipshit McGee, what's his dickhead's name? Raj Giri.
Which dickhead are we talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, Raj. Lord.
Yeah. So I think starting next week, we're going to, we had to pivot this week, but I had like a whole segment planned about dumb tweets of the week or shithead tweets. I don't know what the segment's going to be. It's probably going to be the Raj Giri moment of the week. But this guy, like somebody said, oh yeah, but they have Aussie Open on at Wembley Stadium. So that's cool. And he could be like, yeah, Aussie Open's great. He could have just said that. Instead, he's like, who the fuck is Aussie Open? Nobody knows who they are or something like that. I can't remember what the exact tweet said. Paraphrasing. But basically questioned like, who cares about Aussie Open essentially because they're not famous yet.
Would he say the same thing if they put the War Raiders on? Oh, if WWE was doing a show in Wembley and the War Raiders were on a pre-show, would his dumbass say anything to that effect?
No,
No,
because
of
he's
course
clearly
not.
got an agenda here. Yeah,
Of course
he's a
not, because
dickhead.
he is a dickhead who doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. But he is a millionaire who sold a website that used to have some credibility at some point. So fuck that guy. It's going to be a
Yeah.
good match. And the Aussie Open will be something in this country within the next year. So
Yes. It's like just because somebody's not famous yet, that doesn't mean they shouldn't be on shows. How the fuck are you supposed to get them famous if you
Yeah.
don't put them on TV? How are you going to get them over if you're not putting them on your biggest shows?
man, I'll tell
Eat
you what,
shit.
having Lord Littlebrook on that WrestleMania 3 card nearly killed it.
Yeah.
Fucking geek.
Trios match: Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page, and Kota Ibushi, versus
Ibushi.
Jay White, Juice Robinson, and Konosuke Takeshita.
Excuse you. I normally would say the Elite go over, but I think because we're all assuming that we're going to get Takeshita Kenny in Chicago,
Yeah.
so it would not surprise me to see the Bullet Club guys and Takeshita get a win here. I mean, like the head says go with the Elite, it's the Elite, but I think I'm going to go with my sleeper here and put the Bullet Club guys in Takeshita.
If Mike were booking, Takeshita pins Omega. That's how I would do it. Clean or not, doesn't matter. Takeshita pins Omega. That's what I would do. 100%.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. I would quite enjoy that, actually.
Yeah. Sting and Darby Allin versus Swerve Strickland. And now Christian Cage, no longer AR Fox. There's rumors going around as to why AR Fox was pulled. I think he's in the doghouse right now. Because not only did he get pulled from the match, he got pulled from the entire angle. He got kicked out of Mogul Embassies. Swerve's a great promo, so he was able to pull it off. But the whole thing was just, but the entirety of it just sucked, right? Yeah,
I don't know if it sucked. I don't know. I don't think it sucked. It was rushed, but I thought rushed. I thought Swerve's performance carried it to something at least interesting.
Look, Swerve's a great performer. You can give that guy anything. He's probably going to make. But I think that the rushing of it and the content of it, and I think they did it because this guy's in the doghouse, or else they would have just done another injury angle. Mm-hmm. They could have done an injury angle to pull him from the match like they did with Phoenix, who we'll talk about a little later. But yeah, there's lots of rumors going around. I saw somebody say like maybe he didn't have his passport, and then somebody was saying maybe he had a funeral. I don't know what's going on there, but he got pulled, and it looks like it's booked now. Christian Cage, Daddy himself, is in the match.
Yeah, Christian Cage is going to be looking to hump Nick Wayne's mom.
Yeah,
that's kind of his gimmick now. It would not surprise me if you did not see AR Fox on AEW television for quite some time.
Yeah, so it seems like he did something wrong here, and I don't know exactly what that is, but there's like because like he turned heel in a great way in tremendous fashion, and then just got turned back babyface and looked like a complete geek. And Nick Wayne and Darby seem to be his buddy now, even though he tried to murder Nick Wayne.
To be fair, Darby.
Well, let's hear this.
Darby was the one who forgave him. Nick Wayne just was kind of there. So there is nothing to say that Nick Wayne necessarily forgave AR Fox.
Well, I mean, he didn't try to kick the guy's ass.
Well, perhaps Nick Wayne
tried to murder me.
Hold on. Perhaps Christian Cage tells Nick Wayne these same facts. And Nick Wayne is lured under the spell of one Christian Cage. So perhaps we're laying the seeds for another story here, or perhaps this is shitty booking. I tend to want to see the better thing. But that being said, I would not be surprised if we don't see AR Fox for a bit.
Yeah. But again, kudos to Swerve, man. I think he turned he turned a chicken salad out of chicken shit or whatever you call it.
However that phrase goes,
yeah. We got Stadium Stampede, Orange Cassidy.
Sting and Darby winning that one, right? Someone's Christian Cage going to the coffin again.
Yeah. Christian Cage, yeah, absolutely. Going to the coffin, 100%. I forgot about the comments because I'm looking at my Google Doc here, going through my notes. But let's go through the comments real quick. We got Wind Up 13 Erd. I'm sorry, dude, I have no idea what that is, but it makes me sad that people like Raj represent the business. Yeah, that is sad. Yep. And then Io, my man Io, what's up, dude? Greetings, fellas. How's it going, man? Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate you being here. Patreon subscriber too. Thank you, Io.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Stadium Stampede, Orange Cassidy, Best Friends, Eddie Kingston, and Penta versus John Moxley, Claudio, Wheeler Yuta, and the returning Hulk Santana and Ortiz. Santana got the same prescription as Buddy Murphy, Andrade, and Brian Cage and Big Bill. I don't know if it's from the AEW doctor or not. I'm not going to throw any allegations out there, but yeah, he's coming back looking jacked, brother. And there was a rumor that him and Ortiz were still refusing to work together, but they look like they're fine now.
Oh, they did? Did you see Ortiz walk right by Santana and the two of them didn't even make eye contact on the show? They did.
Hey, they went to work. They went to work. I mean,
they went,
yeah.
Which in this company really says something. The two guys
Yeah.
showed up for work and stood together on camera. Clearly, they don't love each other at the moment, but they showed up for work. Yeah, Santana looked absolutely jacked out of his gourd. Meanwhile, Ortiz wore a hat strangely reminiscent of Ranger Smith from Yogi Bear.
Yeah, he looked like he was going to a Taylor Swift concert. I didn't know what the hell he was up to, but
I don't know what Ortiz is thinking with the new outfit, but I'm excited for this match, to be quite honest with you. I think this is going to rule.
Dude, they always rule. Like every Stadium Stampede, even the silly one. I thought that was good. Like,
the silly one was perfect for the spring of 2020.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's exactly what we needed at the time. It absolutely worked. Yeah, great stuff. Who you got winning?
BCC.
Yeah, I don't think that you want Santana and Ortiz. If you're going to try to get behind these guys and push them again, I don't think you want them losing. You know, let one of the best friends lose. That's what they do.
Yeah, Chuck Taylor's right there.
Yeah. And now we got the real World's Championship, CM Punk versus Samoleon Joe. You remember that from TNA?
Samoleon I do remember Joe? That. That's why I chuckled. That's old school. That's some Brace for Impact stuff. I think this match could be a lot of fun, or it could be really bad, and I'm not sure which way it's gonna go.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to be inclined to say that it's going to be pretty good. But I'm also kind of, a big fan of both of these guys.
Me too.
No matter what Punk's behavior is behind the scenes, I just happen to find him fascinating and I like his matches. So
we got a YouTube comment on that last week. These guys are Punk fans. I laughed.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Guilty.
Yes, we are. Like
we are, but we also like when he's being an asshole, we say it.
He's an asshole.
Right? It's like we're being an asshole, but also at the same time, I think the Young Bucks are kind of being babies.
Yeah. Right? Can we agree that everybody is being a little much in this whole scenario? I tweeted out the other day. I'm like, I can't believe, because people were still litigating this thing online, like hours after Terry Funk died. I'm like, my God, Terry Funk is dead, and you guys are still fighting up. Like not them, but like fans. Yeah. I'm like, you guys are wasting your online time to talk about this crap when a legend is dead. Come on, man. What are we doing here?
Yeah, go watch some goddamn Terry Funk promo. Stop worrying about the antics between the Punk and the Elite. But yeah, the latest update I saw was that Punk has made several overtures to try to squash things, and the Young Bucks are just not interested. So I am now. It's like, yeah, Punk was the biggest asshole in the beginning, but I think these guys holding on to this grudge, not helpful for the company. They might want to just, accept that olive branch, squash it. You ain't got to be friends. No one's saying be friends, but come to work, have a meeting. I was in a meeting today with somebody that I despise. Now, they didn't whoop my ass. Okay. Full disclosure. But I was in a meeting today with somebody that I despise, right? Because guess what? It's my job. I get paid to do it. I have to work with people that I don't like all the time. And I was in a meeting, was cordial. I actually complimented a thing that they said that wasn't even really worthy of all that much of complimenting, but I'm trying to be a professional, is that's what professionals do, right? You make the workplace environment better for everybody. Clearly one guy's trying and another guy's not. And that's kind of where the situation's at right now,
I have, if CM Punk has said, I'm sorry, if he's actually used those words, it is on the Bucks to kind of accept it. They don't have to accept an apology. Yeah, I would like it. I would prefer it if everybody just went to work. Dude, I'm a teacher. I go to work with people I can't stand all the time. Have you met most teachers?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, no one's saying be friends. Just go to work, right? No big deal. Just go to work. And then Punk, get over the whole Danielson or Christopher Daniels stuff. Get over that too, dummy.
I'd
Let the
rather
guy,
see him
let
go
the
over
guy
the-
go to work too.
I'd rather see. I don't think Danielson cares. I think Danielson's very happy to take Saturdays off, quite frankly.
Oh, I mean Christopher Daniels. Christopher
Daniels,
Sorry,
yeah.
not Danielson. Yeah.
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 But I'd like to see him let go of the Punk thing, or the Punk thing, the Hangman Page thing a little bit. Let that go.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, leave
you
that
got
guy
your-
alone. Like he's not doing anything.
You got your receipt. Like
Yeah.
you won and you got your words out. Let's just, and I kind of was like, oh, he can hang on to this shit for as long as he wants. Then he went back to it again. I'm like, all right, bro, now it's now you're beyond reproach here. Oh,
Yeah,
Josiah
yeah,
said it's kind of difficult with his job. That's true. Josiah works with God. So
yeah. So we got where did I leave off? Oh, who's winning that, Punk or Joe? I mean Punk, right? Come on.
Punk. It's Punk.
Yeah. AEW World Trios Championship, the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass with the Ass Man theme. Apparently, Voices of Wrestling. I think talked about that, and I had another friend tell me that was coming up too. But I think can't remember if it was Joe or Rich that talked about that in the Discord. But so they got the Daddy Ass theme, Acclaimed and Daddy Ass versus the House of Black. Man, do you see them just sending the crowd home happy and doing like a big time scissor with 80,000 people and a title win here, or is it too early to take the titles off the House of Black? Because despite Aleister Black's bullshit, like they're pretty cool.
They are pretty cool. It is my
Yeah.
favorite trios in wrestling at the moment, is the House of Black, because they're actually ring-wise kind of awesome. We have heard some stories about Malachi behind the scenes. I'm not going to talk out of school because I can't verify things. So I wonder if it isn't time to take them off him to handle things, right?
Yeah.
Would I rather see the House of Black keep those belts? Absolutely 100%. Absolutely 100%. Do I think they're going to? I'm not sure. And is that a hot take for me to say I think the Ass Man song is stupid?
I think it is stupid. But I think that's the point of the song.
Fair. That's a good point.
Yeah. It was always like I don't think anybody is like, going in there thinking they're fucking John Lennon because they're an ass man. You like to kick them, we like to lick them. I'm an ass man. Like I don't think that was the case.
Is that a Jim Johnson special?
It has to be. That was the time period, right?
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah.
I got nothing. I got nothing on this one. I guess
okay.
if I'm putting money on somebody, I bet the Acclaimed come out with those because they're still pretty over.
Yeah.
Shockingly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they are. AEW World Women's Championship: Hikaru Shida versus Britt Baker versus Saraya versus Toni Storm. I can't call this one. Conventional wisdom would say Saraya because it's in the UK and she's one of the few people from the UK actually on the card. But I just don't know if they take the title off Hikaru Shida so soon, but who knows?
Saraya's pretty brutal in the ring these days.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'll be totally honest with you, man. I just don't care about this match at all. I hope Shida keeps it because she's the best one in the match.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I don't know. I have no opinion on this match one way or the other.
I think Saraya gets it.
AO says the IWC would break if Saraya wins. I'd like to see it.
I think I'm with Io. Yeah.
As a fan of chaos, that would be sensational. Oh my God.
Absolutely.
Discords across the country would melt. That would be a lot of
Let's go Saraya. Let's start a hashtag. Give Saraya a chance.
Give Saraya a chance. Boy, they're gonna hate us on this network soon.
Yeah.
Entertained by that. Oh, we just lost a follower. We just lost a viewer with that one.
Yeah. Oh, they're back.
Saraya
They're back.
a chance. Oh, good.
Next match: Will Ospreay versus Chris Jericho. I'm gonna predict that this is going to be an incredible match because look, Chris Jericho's in his 50s, but he can still go when he needs to. And then of course he's working with the best wrestler in the world right now, and Will Ospreay. There's going to be tons of heat in this match. Will Ospreay is a UK favorite. Don Callis is probably the best heel in the business right now. I just find this a match to be incredibly appealing. I'm really looking forward to it. I think Ospreay takes it. What say you?
I'm intrigued by this match immensely. I think this will be the last great match of Chris Jericho's career. I think Will Ospreay is good enough to carry just about anybody, and Chris Jericho is still pretty good at doing what Chris Jericho does. I think Will Ospreay is going to have 80,000 people chanting for him, and I think it's going to be great. Dude, the contract signing was excellent TV. And I've never said that about a contract. Most contract signings are god awful. I thought it was great. It was so funny to see, like, in my timeline, people unanimously praise it, with the exception of people from the UK. Like, there's people from the UK who are just like, ugh, Ospreay, I just can't.
It's not really.
so
It's
weird.
media from the UK. I just don't think that they have a good relationship with him.
Fair.
They don't. And
Fair.
there's probably multiple reasons for that, and I don't really have a good explanation. But it's just something about the UK media; they just don't like that guy. And he doesn't like them. He's not very nice to them either.
No, I think you're right, but it was funny to me to see so many people praise that segment, and then the UK media guys are just like, yeah, no, it was bad. And I was like, what? Really? That? Oh, wow. I was surprised. Like I said, I loved it. I thought it was great. And I think Will Ospreay, I don't know if it's going to be a Davey Boy Smith moment, but I think the Davey Boy Smith moment, I've said it before on the show, was very overrated because it meant nothing in the long run.
Yeah. He was gone 2 months later.
2 months later. He was gone.
Yeah.
And I think, and Will Ospreay sure did say, hey, my contract's coming up and I'm going to get paid a lot of money.
Dude, he's going to AEW. I think that deal's already done. I think he's just going to finish out his New Japan dates, and then by come January, he'll be in AEW. Yeah. I think, yeah. He kind of made that pretty clear. So the AEW World Tag Team Championship, we got FTR versus the Young Bucks. FTR with both Dax Harwood and Cash Money Wheeler. Don't fuck with him on the road, man. This guy had a hell of a weekend. And it looks like people have already forgotten it, because there was people going ham. Dude, they were out for blood on this guy. You can't let him on the card. He's a danger to society. He shouldn't even be allowed in the UK. We don't want that guy here. He comes out on Wednesday night on Dynamite. Nobody gave a shit.
Twitter
it's like,
isn't
it's
real.
like it never happened. Right? The news cycle moves fast.
Twitter isn't real. We got to remember that. And like, here's my big thing with that is, can the man stand in court of trial? Can the man stand in a court of law? Can we have this man tried before we convict him? Like, people are like, well, you have to suspend him. Like, do you? What if, here's a crazy thought. What if the guy didn't do it? Like, I'm not saying he's innocent.
Weird.
But it's a he said versus he said thing, which is why you have a trial, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we, and if the guy did it, if this is the story and he brandished a gun on a road and did all this stuff, fire him, do what you have to do. I'm perfectly fine with that. But can the man get his day in court? I said, like, I told you this story. I had a friend in college who was accused of a very heinous crime, and he got suspended as we were showing up to our conference qualifier tournament, which is to get to the NCAA tournament. And the AD said, nope, he's done. And my friend spent 3 years of his life and tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees to get a not guilty conviction that took 30 minutes of deliberation.
Wow.
Like, I can't do it, man. I can't sit there and just immediately figure everybody who gets accused of anything is guilty, because I saw this guy's life basically get ruined when he was innocent. So I'm just like, I personally cannot get when say everyone must be punished on accusations. I just can't do it. I would rather see the guy go to court, and if he's convicted, sure, fire him, be done with him. But if he didn't do it and you punished him, what was that for?
Right. Well, and that's my thing too. Like, I think people are forgetting that he pled not guilty. Like, I think that's an important aspect of the story. He's saying he didn't do it. Right. So we can't just assume that he did it. I don't have any evidence that says he did do it. There's an accusation.
Right. He didn't plead no contest. That would mean, I did it. Can we please get the least harsh fine possible? He's saying, I didn't do this. So there's a story. We've only heard one side. We've only heard part of a side of the story too. So let's let the legal system carry it out. And if the guy is a scumbag, he wouldn't be the first scumbag. I always talk about, hey, what about Jimmy Uso? Like, that guy's got multiple DUI arrests, and WWE never did a damn thing with him. Oh, hey, Scott's got a comment. Pull that up real quick, Mike.
Oh, Scott, you know what? I was going to try to have him on, but then the Terry Funk and the Bray Wyatt stuff happened. Scott E. Wrestling, our buddy, said, I missed the opening of the show, but shout out to you both. MJF segment was my favorite from the show. Talking about Dynamite, but it's interesting doing the Ospreay contract thing, fun stuff moving forward. Yeah, absolutely.
We mentioned you earlier in the show, Scott. I mentioned that we were talking about Terry Funk matches. So thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, I hope he gets a chance to watch a lot of some Terry Funk stuff, and then on his next podcast, he talks about what he watched. A great podcaster, by the way.
Absolutely.
But so with the cash stuff, man, it's like, if he did it and like it comes out he's guilty, right? Let's just say he's guilty. And then at that point, that's when you have to make a decision. And then whatever the decision is, the decision. I'm not going to weigh in one way or the other. But we're talking about mental health, right? And we're talking about all this other stuff that's super important. I don't think a guy that's of his right mind does something like that. So you guys that care so much about mental health, that really are about that life, maybe instead of tearing a guy down, maybe we try to figure out exactly why he may have done something like that. Not, let the legal system play out, let the conviction happen, but there might be a bigger reason as to why maybe somebody has that kind of anger inside of them that would do something like that if he is guilty, which could very well come out that he could be guilty. Absolutely. I'm not denying one way or the other, but if Tony Khan has him on the show, right, and then it comes to find out he's guilty, guess what happens? Then you make the decision, but there wasn't really like a negative thing for having him on the show. It doesn't take away from the show itself, right? There's not going to be like this crazy amount of blowback. And that's what people are thinking. I was like, well, if he has him on the show, then there's going to be blowback on the company. It's like, no, not really. Like there won't be. If he makes a swift decision once the verdict comes in, then that's when you know where he stands. But right now he's standing with the guy that he knows. Like he knows this person. They are friends. He's worked with them for years. You stand by him until you can't, right? And that's an important thing too. Not in every case, not in every situation. The BJ Whitmer thing happened earlier this year. That was absolutely horrible, horrendous. And they knew the moment that it happened, they knew exactly what was going on there. They shit canned the guy immediately. This one's not so clear, right? You got to let the system play out.
Yep. And same with with Jimmy Havoc when that whole thing happened. He didn't deny it. He didn't fight it. They fired him. Everybody moved on. Like I said, let's give this guy a day in court and see what happens. Who do you think wins? I honestly don't know. I have no idea.
I'm going with the Young Bucks. And partially for one reason is because they just resigned. And another reason is it's the biggest show in history. I think you want to do a couple of title changes here. And then also because they don't know what's going to happen with this Cash Wheeler thing. I think you want to get the titles off of them because, while you may not need to suspend him, you probably don't want him having the titles when the verdict comes in. Right. Yeah. So maybe you cool him off a little bit while you wait to see what happens. But I'm going to go with the Young Bucks on this one.
I'll go with you on that. It makes sense.
AEW World Championship, soon to be ROH Tag Team Champions, Adam Cole versus MJF in a storyline that is about to climax, a storyline that I hated its first couple of weeks, and all of a sudden the bastards got me. I love this thing. I just don't see them taking the title off MJF, but I think it's possible.
I do too. I'm interested in this because this is a very unconventional storyline build. And some people hate it because it does lean way, way into the sports entertainment world, right?
Yeah.
But you can't argue that it's not the most interesting thing going on in the company, right, as far as the story goes. And it has captured people's interests and imagination. So they've got something here. I'm very curious to see where we go from here. Like, what role does Roderick Strong in the Kingdom going to play? Is Cole... I mean, they seem to telegraph pretty hard that Cole's going to turn on MJF. But did they do that on purpose? Like, did they push so, like, it's a sleight of hand thing. Did they push so hard to make you look at this hand that you don't see the other hand coming up? I mean, I don't know. Something interesting is going to happen, and I'm not sure what it is, and I'm not sure how it leads into next week because we need a hook to get us to go to that other show or to buy that other show. I'm going to the show. I bought tickets anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, you need a reason to buy this next show, and it has to come out of the fallout of this match. And I don't know what that is. And that's going to be a real big test for Tony Khan because they tried that in WWE in 1991 with Hogan and The Undertaker and Ric Flair, and it did not work.
Yeah. This pay-per-view is tracking to be one of the biggest that they've ever done. I think they had 90,000
pre-sales. And who the hell pre-buys a pay-per-view? I've never even thought about pre-buying a pay-per-view.
I typically wait until it's on.
Me too.
It's like 30 minutes out, then I'll hit the button. But yeah, a lot of people were just like, maybe because they just need that Fight TV reminder. Oh, I guess if you're international, I don't know if Bleach Report does that, but when I used to have Fight TV stuff, I would get a reminder on my phone. Hey, your pay-per-view is about to start. So, but yeah, dude, I'm going to stick with MJF. Who you got?
For the sake of conversation, I'll say Adam Cole.
Okay. And then, the curious thing. So maybe they flip it to Adam Cole and then that sets up next week at All Out in Chicago. Maybe that's what they do. I don't know. And that's a good thing that I don't know. I don't know what's coming because you rarely get that in pro wrestling. We can typically see where things are going, but right now I just don't know what to expect, man. Not sure what to expect at all.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't know where this is going. I really don't. And that kind of excites me because sometimes it's pretty easy to see like, oh, I smell a title change here, or I feel like this is coming here. I don't know where this goes because they really seem to lean it hard into Max being the top baby face in the company now, which is what it seems like the crowd likes. I could tell where things are going based on how my kid acts. And my kid hates MJF and has hated him for years. And we were watching Dynamite last night. He looks at me and goes, you know, Dad, I think I kind of like Max now. And I was like, really? Even though he cheated and beat Darby Allin? He's like, yeah, I think he's changed. And again, he's 7, so he's easy work. He's an easy mark to work. But
like, hold on, kid. Let me teach you how to hold on to resentments, buddy. Like
he'll learn that. He already figured out how to learn hang out of resentments. Let me tell you, just not with professional wrestlers yet.
Right.
So he's feeling it, this MJF thing. So I'm very curious to see kind of where we go. Excuse me, I just bumped my microphone out of place. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna say Adam Cole just because we have conversation, but I don't know.
Cool. Well, I'm curious to see where it leads, and then if he does win, then we will be right back here next week previewing All Out. So, guys, I want you to head to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. JD has his article up discussing Terry Funk's run in WCW in 1989. We are going to head over there for Overtime with Mike and JD, where we're actually going to talk about it. We're going to discuss our memories and our thoughts of Terry Funk's run in 1989. We're going to focus on that year specifically. You can also go up. I had 2 Brace for Impacts over the weekend. I will have another Brace for Impact out this coming up weekend, previewing the Emergence show, which just so happens to be on the same night as All In. All In's earlier in the day because they're in London, but Sunday night Impact has their Emergence show, which is on Impact Plus. So I'm going to preview that this weekend. I'm going to recap the show that aired tonight, and then after Emergence is over, I'm going to, like, maybe Monday or Tuesday, whenever I get a chance, I'm going to crank out some more audio exclusive for the Patreon recapping Emergence. So lots of cool stuff coming out on the Patreon. Head to patreon.com/the Mike and JD show. And until next week, mahalo.
Hello, do you like New Japan Pro Wrestling? Are you a Shin Nihon freak? If so, check out the Super J-Cast with Joel and Damon on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.
And even if you fucking hate New Japan Pro Wrestling, listen to the Super J-Cast anyway. Not just for our great show reviews, analysis, and pastrami sandwiches, but there's also usually some dick jokes somewhere in the obligatory opening 30 minutes of absolute nonsense we chat about every single week. That's the Super J-Cast for all the best talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling, crisps, and pornography.
Do you like wrestling trivia? Then check out the 5-Star Match Game, the Pro Wrestling Quiz Show. I'm Joe Gagney. In every episode, I grill 3 contestants with 5 rounds of power-packed wrestling trivia. We have over 30 evergreen episodes in the archives covering WWE, AEW, Japan, Mexico, and much, 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 much more. Play along at home and check it out today.